What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be going over James Stevens' Mitsurugi 1-Dot deck profile. This is the Mitsurugi deck that he played for the Twitch Picks Campus Championship here on TCGU. If you like the deck, once we're done, make sure you go out and you check out the matches. There'll be a playlist with all of them, all the awesome Mitsurugi games that you could possibly want. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the profile. All right, so Mitsurugi 1-Dot. For anybody who hasn't seen one of these UniVersus profiles that we do, instead of just listing out the cards and just laying them down, what I want to talk about is instead, what does the deck want to do in a nutshell? What's the elevator pitch for the deck? As well as what are the interesting combos that the deck wants to do? And so I've kind of organized the deck into a couple of different sections, and we'll talk about the sections as we get there. So what does Mitsurugi want to do on his character cards? So the main thing that he wants to do is he wants to give all of his weapons stun. He wants to give his weapons that now have stun a bunch of damage, and then once per turn, he wants to put you in a bad situation by making an attack low and then making you discard a card. So it's really strong if you can get everything rolling. The Mitsurugi 1-Dot very much feels like a win more character as opposed to a let's get out of a tough situation character. So if you can figure out how to make him roll and make him work well, then you're probably going to win every game that you try to play. But whenever he doesn't quite work the way he's supposed to, Mitsurugi has a really hard time pushing through into and dealing with a plan that he didn't quite prepare for. So let's just jump into the profile and you'll see what I mean. So the first section is going to be what I call non-combo, and these are weapon attacks. We'll start with Heavenly Dance. Weapon attacks that are my lead-in, my pokes, my first attacks. So Heavenly Dance is a safe weapon, stun 1, and it says if their opponent blocks your weapon attack, they commit a foundation. So the reason this is really cool is Mitsurugi is going to be pumping all of your attacks and making them absolutely massive. And then with Heavenly Dance, we stun 1, and then since they're having to block all of our massive attacks, they're committing more stuff so that later on in the turn, it's harder and harder to block, and Mitsurugi's making everything super lethal. Heavenly Dance is a beautiful 3 difficulty, or 3 damage, 1 mid blocks. Really good stuff. And it's really rad to block and reversal with this card just because of like the 1 mid block, and it's just response card pool after your opponent blocks a weapon attack. They commit 1. Cool stuff. Really cool stuff. In addition to that, we've got 2 Deflection Swing. Once again, does like a fine poke. This Mitsurugi very much wants to reversal and make you discard on your attack. And so what we can do here is with Deflection Swing, it being a 3 high for 3, we take and Mitsurugi and give this weapon attack stun. And so now we have a stun attack, and then on the reversal, we stun. We then give it 3 damage, and then on their turn, my opponent's turn, I make it a low and then make them discard a card. And so I make them discard a card on their turn, I make them discard a card on my turn, and then now my big attacks is going to kill them because they have to hold too many cards, or they don't get to push their game state forward. In addition to this card being able to copy whatever cool attack I just blocked. We're playing 2 Spirit Sword Thrust. Spirit Sword Thrust just says that you can take your face down foundations and lift them back up to your hand. We've got some stuff that builds down, not a ton though. That's okay. And it just gets real big. And so giving this weapon attack stun 1 and then 3 more damage and then 3 more damage says that we're slinging at it for 11 damage on a 5 diff. It's really good stuff. Not to mention having a bunch of options in our hands when it comes to more things, because we get to pick up the used cards and then we get to just play them again. Next, we've got Black Dog's Fang. Once again, it's a non-combo card, and we'll get to the combos here in just a second. This card's really good at just pushing through loops, as well as it has stun 1 and it has weapon, and so we get to trigger both of our check of 5s without having to rely on each other. And then discard a momentum after an attack. After another attack resolves, add it to your hand. It got in a smaller errata. You used to be able to pick Black Dog's Fang up itself, but now it has to be a different attack. So after if Black Dog's Fang is in my card pool and I play my Spirit Sword Thrust, after Spirit Thrust resolves, I can discard momentum and then pick up my Black Dog's Fang. It's also super crazy good on block, because after you block with it, their attack resolves after you do all your cool breaker stuff, and then you pick back up your high block, and then you get a block again, breaker again. So really, really, really good defensive and offensive piece. Super useful in the deck. Up next, we're on to our combos. So any of these, we want to play like maybe one, maybe two, but these are not my finishers. The finishers that we have are in here. And the first one that's not necessarily a finisher, but can certainly feel like it, is Shinryokan. This card's another fire reversal, which we'll get to. We have one fire reversal here that we makes them discard cards. This fire reversal is also 3 damage. It's going to make them discard cards. And its goal is to give it speed, give it damage with Mitsurugi, make them discard a card, and then punish them for extra stuff. We're also playing triple Whip Assault. One of the other win conditions. This card gets absolutely massive, and it makes them discard additional cards. Combo, discard momentum, your opponent discards a card. So we discard here, discard here. This attack gets an extra 4 damage. It gets an extra 3 damage. It gets stun 1 because it is a weapon. And it just combos with an attack. We do have to worry that it's a 2-check, but it's a 4 difficulty attack, and so we can just kind of play it. A lot of times our 2 checks are also 5 diffs, and that's just not the case on Whip Assault. It's a 4 diff with a 6 mid for 6. It's really, really solid stats. Even just playing this thing for its stats is really good. The other reversal that we have is Bamboo Blind Slice. This card doesn't trigger Mitsurugi exceptionally well for his once per turn, but what this card does say is that if I've got enough momentum built up by hitting you with some probably half blocks, every attack that you play and I have a card in my card pool and a momentum, I'm just going to remove that attack from the game. And so it says Mitsurugi's just going to stay alive, and it essentially says -1 hand size, -1 attack, and that's what Mitsurugi already does himself. He says -1 hand size. This thing says that I get to just negate, abort an attack. And so Bamboo Blind Size is effectively Mitsurugi. And just if you squint your eyes and just like look a little differently, they're essentially the same card, which is why this card's for sure in the deck. And then my last attack, the big one, Exploding Flame Roar. This card's insane. This card gets stun 2 and builds down another card in your card pool. It gets 6 damage. It builds down another card in your card pool. This card closes out games. With its ability, you get to trigger Mitsurugi because it's double its printed damage. And so now it has stun 2, it builds down, and they discard a card. And this is probably the 3rd attack, and all of Mitsurugi's stuff got really big. So this card is for 15 by itself in Mitsurugi. Really, really strong stuff. And that's just these 2 cards, nothing else. Really very, very strong card. Moving on to our assets and our actions. These are all just support cards without being like the bread and butter of the deck. So we have our non-combos and then our finishing combo cards that Mitsurugi wants to play. But there's something not quite there, and what our actions and our assets cover. So we're playing double Shishio. This card says after one of my things get blocked, I get to pick it. I get to build it down. This is really important when it comes to Spirit Sword Thrust. This is like the main combo. This and one other card in order to pick your stuff back up with Spirit Sword. This card says that they're not allowed to block anything, or anything that they do block can easily come right back. So really important to combo these 2 cards together. Plus, it says that if I didn't quite catch my Mitsurugi check, I can, if I checked a 4, I can commit a card and then with Shishio blow it up. And instead of +3 damage, it's now +5 damage. So very, very useful tool. You should definitely be playing that card. And that's the only asset in the deck is just the double Shishio. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to our actions. Actions, we're playing Time to End You. The only real ability after this is response after you play a combo ability. This attack gets 3 damage, gains stun 1, and add this card to your staging area face down. Our second half of our entire attack lineup are all combos, and so giving Bamboo Slice the additional 3 damage, and then giving it the 3 damage with Mitsurugi to make them discard the card is just good enough to run this, as well as being able to pick up. I mean, imagine picking up 3 Time to End You with Spirit Sword Thrust, giving it 3/3, going in and playing Shinryokan right afterwards, and then responding with 3 of these, giving it 9 damage and additional damage, make them discard a card, so on and so forth. There's just a lot of really solid plays that we get to make with Time to End You. And then The last action we're playing is Fight Like You Mean It. Fight Like You Mean It is kind of a meme card, honestly, but it does have something to do in this deck. It says, enhance, remove your stun or weapon attack. If your stun or weapon attack is not blocked, your next attack is 4 damage and is unblockable. And so if we can load up on a bunch of speed, like, I don't know, a Spirit Sword Thrust, and then make sure that they can't block it, this card now says that whatever combo attack I combo with Time to End You, I just make it absolutely disgustingly huge, and they just have to fight like they mean it. Onto the foundations. So the first section of the foundations is kind of like, hey, what does Mitsurugi want to do? And that is make a bunch of cool checks and discard a bunch of cool cards. So the first card that we're playing is Tempu. I'm not saying the whole thing. It says response discard pile. After you check this card during your attack gets 2 damage or gain stun 2. Since we're making 2 checks on every single one of our attacks, it's really easy to pop this off. And then enhance flip your stun attack. Stun or weapon attack gains 1 speed. It's a 1/5 with a 3 low block that just says I can flip 3 of them and make sure that my Fight Like You Mean It pushes through or something along those lines. This is just right on top, so I got to meme a little bit. But like, because of all the checks that I'm making, randomly picking up an extra 2 damage, randomly finding stun 2 is just good enough to want to play it, especially in Mitsurugi. It's an instant 4 of inclusion in him. As well as it's a weapon foundation, which we now get to play No Worthy Opponent. Enhance, discard 1 card. This attack gets +1 or -1 damage for each printed keyword on that discarded card. If you discarded a stun or weapon card, draw a card. So now this can say +1 or -1 damage, and then replace it with hopefully a better card. We're going to find an attack or something that doesn't necessarily want to be in my hand. As well as I can discard a big keyword, like discarding Spirit Sword Thrust with No Worthy Opponent is +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 keywords. And so it's either +4 or -4 damage, and you get to draw a card. That seems good enough to me. Well enough to play it, as well as you can just pitch itself if you have a different one in your hand. Just a little cycling. Next up, we've got the build aspect of the deck. We're playing for Searching for the Knight of Mare. It says enhance flip after you play a combo to build another card to face down. Kind of lets you just go in and extend a little harder. Because we're making checks with Mitsurugi, we want to scale into our late game as fast as we can. And so playing things that build themselves for free or build other cards is super good, like Folktale Storyteller. After you play it, if you got 2 foundations, just build it down. We also discard cards into our discard pile. Not necessarily relevant for this deck, but it might be relevant for a different deck you're thinking of. Up next, we've got we've still got Kill Them More cards. We're playing One with Nature. One with Nature is a card that I think is almost too good for the game, especially with a character that gives so much damage. We got to have a way to pump that damage through and push it through. And so the enhanced discard 1 card, your opponent's block modifier to block this attack gets +2. This is essentially +2 speed, but there's so little in the game that affects block modifier. There's plenty of stuff that affects speed, or if a speed bonus happens. It's not what this card says, and so all of those cards that negate speed bonuses don't hit this card, and then it gives just a little bit more damage itself. We're playing triple New Empress of Netherrealms. Mitsurugi's got some major 6-hander problems where he can pump out a ton of damage, but if he doesn't see enough attack cards, he'll just lose because he's not pushing the game forward in the state that he wants. And so pay 3 of my 28 life in order to hopefully find an attack or figure out how to stack an attack with a Shinryokan and then draw it. Or whatever card you need, or doing Desperation Enhance, look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You can do math with that and then figure out, do I need to pump, do I need to not pump, are they going to block, are they not going to block, what's the half block look like, so on and so forth. It's just an information card. In the Staying Alive category, we've got 2 Master's True Power. It just says commit -2 or 3 damage, and then Deadlock Enhance, your weapon attack gets 2 speed and 2 damage, and that's on every attack. And so I can just like pop 2 of these down, and then everything's getting 4/4 and plus Mitsurugi stuff. His once per turn is for sure going to happen. This is just enough deadlock pressure to make sure that they're trying to play a real back and forth with you. They can't just stall out and try and have you mill out. Not going to happen. Speaking of deadlock pressure, we're playing 2 Overly Dramatics. This card, as I said, there's a ton of cards that stop speed stuff. This is one of them, and so we very much want to play these cards ourselves. Overdramatic stops so many things. It stops a bunch of proliferary cards just because of there's plenty of things that like there could be a card that says draw 100 cards and -1 damage. This thing stops all of it, including the draw. And so because of the fact that it affects so many cards like that, like it turns off some entire characters like Faye Valentine or Sung Mi Na. This card just utterly shuts down. If you're not playing at least 2 of this in your main board under these symbols, you should definitely relook at your deck and see where you can fit it. It's a very, very valued card. Moving on to the more technical stuff, we've got 3 Wishing Ward. Mill 3, your opponent discards a Momentum. Momentum is one of the easiest ways to get yourself killed, is giving your opponent or letting your opponent run their Momentum to free. And this is a 2/5 with a 3 high block that just is anti-discard, and so it's just a solid all-around card. It's a really good spam, meaning it's a 1 or a 0 diff foundation. Really solid inclusion. Double Sense of Morals. It's just stun hate, and it lets me check an additional 4. It only really combos with the Tempu card, because if it's checked during Sense of Morals, it also counts. We're playing double Protecting the Protector. Plenty of times whenever you're doing math, in order to kill your opponent, you have to include that Mitsurugi +3 damage on all your attacks. And Protecting the Protector says that if they were trying to seal your character or seal one of your attacks or mess up your game plan, discard a Momentum, make sure that your game plan gets to go through. Good protection card, hilariously. You can tell because it's on the card twice. Double Pursuing the Vendetta, same thing as Protecting. This card stops pretty much everything. This card just stops foundation removal. It can't be removed itself, and then after a card leaves my staging area, I get to pick any card in my discard pile and toss it into my staging area committed. Really, really strong stuff. We're playing 1 Good and Evil. Responses are really scary, and so anything that I can have to just cancel a response by paying a Momentum, that's no cost when it comes to having my card revoked or so on and so forth. I don't want to be good, and I don't want my stuff to be negated, and so Good and Evil is a very good inclusion in this. And fun fact, it only has 2 symbols, Good and Evil. I wish they would do this more with like the opposite symbols for every other symbol. I think it'd be really neat. 1 Bebop Blues. Actions like Bang or Templar or Stop or Revoke are very, very strong against Mitsurugi, and so just being able to just shut off one action piece might be the difference between winning and losing the game. All right, so that was James's Mitsurugi 1-dot deck profile. Let us know what you think. What changes would you make? What'd you like? What'd you not like? Let us know. Have a conversation down in the comments down below. We read every single one of them. And if you like the profile and you want to see how it did, make sure you go out to the Twitch Picks Campus Championship here. There will be a playlist on the channel. And if you want to support us and have a real in-depth conversation, you can join the Discord by going to patreon.com/TCGUniversity. Subscribe at the $1 level, get that invite, and have a real long in-depth talk with James about the deck. So, from all of us here at TCGU, thank you very much for watching, and stay alert.